Murder in the morning from the Hidden Killers podcast.
Well, it's been nearly a half century on this case. 1974 is the time of the murder in Southern California that we are about to talk about. The murder of Michael Ray Schlicht is the specific case, and we now have a name because this has been a big uncertainty for quite some time as to who this is. Orange County Sheriff's Department revealed a breakthrough in a case of a murdered teenager found in 1974 in Southern California. Through the use of investigative genetic genealogy, authorities have identified the victim as Michael Ray Schlicht, bringing renewed attention to the case that may link him to the notorious serial killer Randy Kraft. On September 14th, 1974, the lifeless body of the young man was discovered. At the time, his cause of death was tragically attributed to accidental alcohol or diazepam intoxication. However, this tragic story took a darker turn in 1980 when investigators noted multiple homicides in 1978 with similar intoxication causes of death. These victims were found within close proximity to Schlicht's location, yet he remained unidentified, only known as John Doe. Randy Kraft, infamously labeled the Scorecard Killer, was arrested during a routine traffic stop back in '83, where police found a deceased man in a passenger seat amid beer bottles and lorazepam tablets. Kraft would later be convicted in 1989 of 16 murders in Southern California, and authorities suspect his involvement in up to 60 deaths between 1972 and 1983. The gruesome details of his crimes, which include torture, sexual assault, and mutilation, earned him the chilling moniker of the Scorecard Killer. Despite his conviction, Kraft has remained on death row in San Quentin State Prison because that's how well our system works. He's been on death row since the 80s.
Yeah, well, and what's the point? Why are we,
why do we even have it?
Well, exactly. Why is he on death row if death never comes?
Well, exactly. However,
it's costing them money.
Yeah, it is. It costs more money to put someone to death than it does to keep them alive, actually. However, the discovery of tissue samples from Schlicht's unidentified remains brought renewed hopes for answers. These samples were submitted to a laboratory to construct a DNA profile. After months of diligent genealogy work, investigators successfully traced the lineage to Schlicht's grandparents. Authorities then reached out to a granddaughter of the grandparents who disclosed that she had last seen her brother, Michael Ray Schlicht, in April of 1974 when he was just 17 years old. To confirm the revelation, investigators journeyed to Kansas City to obtain a DNA sample from Schlicht's mother, who ultimately led to the positive identification of this one enigmatic John Doe. Orange County Sheriff's Department has reclassified Schlicht's death as a homicide, reopening the case. It has long remained unsolved. The investigation is ongoing as authorities delve into the circumstances surrounding Schlicht's murder and his potential connection to Randy Kraft's reign of terror. The discovery brings some closure, hopefully, to Schlicht's family after decades of uncertainty, but also raises questions about other unsolved cases from that era that may be linked to Kraft. As investigators continue their work, they remain committed to seeking justice for the victims and their families. Interesting to see another one of these come back about. I think I would have mixed feelings if I were a family member of this individual. I don't know. I guess it really just kind of depends, because I would hope since 1974, maybe you've made some peace with this, and maybe you've been able to move forward in your life. I don't want to say move on or and it still wouldn't be traumatizing to you or something you'd think about probably every day. So getting the news that, okay, we found him, identified him, but it also brings all of that right back to you.
It's taking that scab off of that horrible wound.
And I guess if you need the closure, if you haven't already gotten it, hopefully this brings it. But I wonder if some people in that situation are also like, yeah, I'm glad we found it out, but it brings the nightmare back to present day again after probably many, many years of trying to, move on with life and survive and be sane, if you will.
Yeah. And I'm reading about, I had never heard of the Scorecard Killer.
Yeah.
It sounds like there was a coded list of 61 neatly printed terms and phrases found in the trunk of his car, believed to refer to each of his victims. what kind of a person, first of all, what kind of a person does this? But I wonder, what is there to keeping a scorecard of sorts? Why would you do that? Is it just a reference point? Is it a token of what you've done? What if some of our experts had to say about, keeping little trinkets of sorts?
Some do it. I mean, it's just kind of their own. A lot of times it goes back to sexual gratification in many, many cases. And in this case, there was sexual assault involved in some of his murders. So sometimes having that trinket, whether it be something taken from the victim or something that he created as a scorecard, they can look back on that. And to put it, I guess, kind of bluntly, while healthy adults may look at some sort of, material like a Playboy or what have you, he's looking at a list of people he murdered.
Ugh.
And getting that sort of enjoyment out of it.
Well, and it sounds like he was in the closet for quite some time. He did come out. It looks like the majority of his victims were male. His father flew into a rage when he found out that he was interested in men. So, a lot of shaming, a lot of things like that going on. So, yeah, I can absolutely see that. And it's just, like you said, it's got to be really hard for these families. You've moved on, or have you? And now here comes this evidence there that
we saw that with Dahmer too. Of his attraction to men and being ashamed of that, and then in some twisted way, because of that shame, it also helped motivate him to want to, kill people. And in some of these twisted minds, they think they're killing the part of them that they view as being bad or has been shameful. And they take that sort of retribution out on innocent people. So probably part of the motivation here as well. But
just tragic. And I'm so thankful for DNA in a way. I have been like squirming over the data breach with 23andMe. I had my profile deleted because, if it gets breached once, it's probably going to happen again.
You do realize it's still there. It's not.
I know.
Just because you delete it doesn't mean, it just means you don't have access to it anymore.
Thank you for that, for easing my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did what I needed to do and told them to delete it, and hopefully it's gone forever. But
nope. I'm
really thankful in these murder cases where they can finally get some closure for people and hold some people accountable for it too.
Yeah. I what do you do with the 23andMe data breach? I mean, and is it, people, it's the genetic, like, okay. What are you using that for? I mean, are the criminals truly going after the DNA data who breached 23andMe, or are they just going after people's credit cards?
Well, and that's the question. We don't quite know, but they were targeting one specific group of people in that breach.
Who?
So Jewish people.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's weird. So it's trying
disturbing.
to find. Oh, I didn't know that. So they were trying to find identities of a large group of people to where they're at. Okay, well then that answers that question. There was some nefarious. It wasn't just let's get a bunch of people's credit cards, and it happens to be 23andMe.
No, this wasn't. And the thing is that when you look up the 23andMe thing, most likely the remedy you'll get out of it is, hey, we'll give you, like a credit watch kind of a thing, whatever that's called.
That's what they always do.
And it's like, it's not my credit I'm worried about. It's the fact that they have my DNA.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before. I come from a Jewish and Catholic family. I don't identify with either.
Mm-hmm.
But in the system, I'm listed as one of those people that they're after.
Yeah.
That, and even though I don't practice, I haven't practiced ever in my life.
But yeah, it's in your blood. And if people are targeting that, like where, gosh, this is where it gets into the scary territory of what, can that be used to develop some sort of, I don't know, and I have no idea if it can be done, or a target list. There's like a physical list that could be garnered out of that. But, could you develop something that targets a group of individual people genetically? Whatever it is, there's certain genetic markers for every person and for every race of people and for every ethnicity and all that. could that be used to target a group? But I wouldn't think you'd need to necessarily breach 23andMe if that's your intent. I would think there'd be other ways of going about getting whatever genetic markers you need.
But isn't that the most convenient way to say, how can I find one group of people?
If you're looking
I'm going to go into this part.
If you're looking for a list of where people live, yes, without a doubt. But if you're looking for the genetic information itself, because I don't know that 23andMe necessarily, has your chromosomes up there that they can take. Someone can take that,
but they got your genotypes, and they tell you what part of Europe you're from and what part of Russia you're from. And my ancestry tracks all the way back to Romania. And so, I end up in this group of people that, for better or for worse, happen to be mostly of the Jewish faith. Sure. And like I said, I don't practice. I'm an atheist because probably of all of the persecution. And it kept me awake at night when this first came out, because I thought, I don't identify with Jewish people at all. So don't put me on that list. I don't belong on that list.
I don't think they're going with what you identify with. I think they're just going with who they'd like to hate. And unfortunately,
and that's exactly it.
That's what people do. It doesn't matter. They just hate, and they find a reason to hate.
And it's just terrifying. And I'm done being paranoid about it. If someone's going to come and get me, they're going to do it. And I've been on their shit list for many years. It's not just this, but it's frightening. Sure. And I hate to think that we're headed down that path. We saw it in Nazi Germany. Is this where we're headed? I don't know. Why would somebody go into 23andMe and specifically target that group of people? I don't know.
Or to freak the shit out of society too. I don't know. I mean, there's so many weird things that are going on, and to have these things, consistently happening, it does make you wonder of,
It's good to have a healthy set of fears and just be aware. Yeah. And I'm aware. And, it's not like I've holed up in my house and I haven't left, but, I can't live my life being afraid. And I hope that things don't come of it. I'm really grateful for genetics being able to figure out things like this and being able to track diseases. I did, when I was on 23andMe, find out some things that might be coming in my future genetically.
Isn't that fun?
It's a little scary, just stuff to be aware of, and maybe go in for some diagnostic testing more often than I would have, just to keep track. And so that's really valuable information. But then when it comes to a data breach, that's when it gets really terrifying.
It just feels like if you're going to function in society today, it's going to happen. I mean, unless you don't want to function at all. I mean, that's fine. I mean, but it makes it a hell of a lot more difficult. It's almost impossible to. Not that everyone has to go to 23andMe, but all the places that you have to give information to and where it can be breached from. I mean, I'm talking more credit cards, addresses, and that. I just assume if someone wants to find somebody, it can be done fairly easily, no matter who it is on this planet, unless you're, really, really, really in hiding. And even then, people can find out what they want to be off the
grid. I mean, take a look to your right or left, wherever your cell phone is right now. Yeah. That baby is tracking you. I guarantee it. You can be found.
Well, yeah, that's the funny part about they're going to start tracking us. You know what? They've been doing it for years, and they're doing it right now. You idiot! It's I got my phone on. Don't trust me. It doesn't matter.
No,
they're following you.
If you're on Facebook, they're following you. Snapchat, unless you've gone in and undone the following, it's still following you. It knows what tower you just pinged off of.
Unless you're living in a hole and you're not using any sort of digital device that connects to anything, trust me, someone will know where you are.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free.
So you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.